and we need it now. Hi, hello, how are you? My name is Pinoy, and something I've been mulling over is the existence of a Final Fantasy VIII Remake. Obviously, it does not exist right now. I mean, I don't have any inside contacts at Square Enix, and I am entirely just saying shit into my microphone because something that's been in my mind for years at this point is Final Fantasy VIII Remake. A lot of this started when I had a conversation with one of my good friends, David. I don't know if you're watching this, but hello if you are, where we were talking about, this is around the time when Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1 had come out, and we loved the combat in the game, excluding the air combat. It's pretty bad. Great in Rebirth though. We were talking about, well, okay, we both like Final Fantasy, but which Final Fantasies actively need a remake and could benefit from it the most? And both of our brains kind of aligned to Final Fantasy VIII. So I grew up I played Final Fantasy VIII growing up. I liked it, but I had a lot of issues with it initially when I played it a long time ago. Most of it came from, I'll be honest, me just being young, stupid, and not understanding what the hell the junction system was, not understanding drawing, not understanding really any of the mechanics in the game, and just kind of throwing myself at things and it not really working out for me. I still end up walking away enjoying it. Obviously, it has some of the best music in the entire series. I don't think anyone would debate that. But I recently replayed it, something I've been doing since whenever they announced Final Fantasy IX and VII for the Nintendo Switch, the original Switch. There was a direct, I distinctly remember, where they announced they were bringing both 9 and 7 to Switch, and 9, I believe it shadow dropped. I remember because I reacted to it on a stream a long time ago, and I got really excited, and I bought both of them immediately. 9 was out same day, so I replayed 9, and then 7, and then later 8 came out, and I actually bought a physical copy. It was like a dual pack that's 7 and 8. Anyway, I had told myself when 9 had dropped, okay, I have not played a Final Fantasy like the older Final Fantasies in years. Now it's been years since I replayed 9, but yeah, I told myself then and there, we're gonna replay the entire series. Now I had never played Final Fantasy V or 13-3, Lightning Returns. Those are the only Final Fantasies mainline I consider the sequels of 13 mainline that I had never played. Full context, I like every Final Fantasy. The only one that I'm not too fond of is 2. So I started with 9, and then I went to 10, and then went back, because that came on Switch as well. And then I went back when the Pixel remasters came out, and then I played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Also, I played 7 like a few times in here. I kind of play 7 almost yearly because it's my favorite game of all time. And when I got to 8, which was last year, I replayed 8. I played the remastered version. I was kind of jaw-dropped at how good the game was. Like, I was genuinely stun-locked. I remember liking the game. And this could entirely just be me being gaslit by all the FF8 propaganda. If you're unaware, people like Ben Starr, Clive Rossfield in FF16, Verso in Clair Obscur Expedition 33, or speaking of Expedition 33, Guillaume, the creative director and CEO of Sandfall, the guys who make Clair Obscur, one of his favorite games of all time is FF8. This would be a good part to interject with the possibility of Sandfall making Final Fantasy VIII Remake, because I recorded the majority of this video on July 1st, 2025. Today, as I'm recording this, is August 5th, 2025. And recently, the team at Sandfall visited Square Enix, and even chilling with Naoki Hamaguchi, director of FF7 Rebirth, co-director of FF7 Remake, and Yoshinori Kitase, director of FF6, 7, and 8. Hamaguchi has joked previously about not wanting to do another Final Fantasy remake, and Kitase has said that if Final Fantasy VIII got a remake, he'd want someone younger to take the reins. Well, considering Creative Studio 1's hands are full with the FF7 Remake trilogy and possibly FF17 or 18 soon after, I look to a company like Konami, who were in an even worse position within the gaming industry than Square Enix. They're planning to resurrect Silent Hill and Metal Gear by outsourcing development to external studios like Bloober Team and Virtuos, with supervision from members of the original teams has had immense success. Square themselves are no strangers to outsourcing, with IP like Octopath Traveler being co-developed by Acquire, Crisis Core Reunion being developed by Tosei, and Neo The World Ends With You developed by Hand. I think handing the reins of a Final Fantasy VIII Remake to Sandfall Interactive, and specifically Guillaume, should be hugely beneficial to both companies. Studios like Bloober Team or Christian Whitehead's Evening Star can spearhead certain IP both because they're huge fans of the art and because they're immensely talented. The biggest blockade would be that Square typically doesn't greenlight remakes unless someone from the original team can be involved somehow, and we've even seen Kazushige Nojima, the writer of Final Fantasy VIII, say that he'd love to revisit the game to expand on Laguna, so I'd imagine this is where the biggest roadblock would come from. Despite that, I would love to see this happen, simply because fans would be ecstatic, and Guillaume would get to be a lead on one of, if not his favorite game of all time. One more thing. As I finished recording that voiceover, I went to Hamaguchi's Twitter in order to take a screenshot for this video, and I noticed he retweeted a Japanese gaming journalism website called Automaton Media, who wrote an article about the Expedition 33 team meeting up with Square Enix, and as Hamaguchi said in his tweet, shared a creatively rich exchange of visions and ideas. I used Google Translate on the article, and it specifically points out what I mentioned a second ago. Sandfall Interactive is said to be home to many big fans of JRPGs. Guillaume is a particular fan of the Final Fantasy series, with his favorite title being Final Fantasy VIII. This visit was an opportunity for him to meet Kitase, who is also the director of Final Fantasy VIII. I'm not sure why Hamaguchi would retweet something like this. I sincerely doubt this is hinting at an FF8 remake, but it's interesting to point out and think on. Later in the article, they speculate that this could possibly have some creative influence on Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3, which, yeah, that's definitely possible. There were even 2 interviews from VGC with Ben Starr, one where Ben Starr talked about how if there was a Final Fantasy VIII remake, he would love to play Laguna. Bro, he would kill it as Laguna. And there was another one where he recently said they'll never remake Final Fantasy VIII and that he'd rather see a new one, which is completely fair. I think that's totally fine. I remember I used to do a show on my main channel called One More where I would cover gaming news, and there was a time, now 6 years ago, which kind of blows my mind, I remember seeing a fan had recreated Delling City with Unity, and they had ported Squall and Renoa's Dissidia models and just walked around. And it looked, I mean, obviously it's fan made, but like, it just sparked so much hype inside of me. Like, dude, we need this. I keep hearing notable people in the industry talk about FF8 and gassing it up so damn much. And I've always liked it, but I was never like a super fan of it. Replaying it last year was like magical, bro. I'm literally getting goosebumps talking about it. It was magical. It was so good. I was like, damn, I don't remember this being this fucking good. The vibe of FF8 is so my thing. Like, you can probably tell because I said 7 is my favorite game of all time. The vibes of 7, 10, I'm pretty sure it's the same creative team behind 7 and 10 that also did 8. Those guys are like, if I was younger, I would say that I would describe it as my personality. The stuff that comes out of those guys' brains. When I started the game with the opening cutscene where Squall and Cypher are fighting each other, and Cypher just gashes Squall during, I think they're just like sparring or something, I was like, damn, I don't fucking remember this shit being awesome. And then there's that reveal shot of Balam Garden, fucking peak music, by the way. Quistis comes out and makes a joke with Squall, so whatever. I fucking love Squall. But anyway, that fucking scene, I was like, oh my god, this is awesome. I'm like going through the school, I'm talking to all the NPCs, Zell is the goat, and then the Dalit mission was like, oh my fuck, this is sick. You got the giant mech chasing you through the dude, I'm literally getting goosebumps just thinking about FF8 all over again. And that's just the intro, you know. There's so much to FF8 that has a lot of charm stuff, like the poo-poo mission. Just, I don't know, FF8 was so cool. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Recently, my friend Robbie, Apple 2K, Robbie Sunderland, he makes music, go check him out. He also has an excellent YouTube channel where he does video essays. He, I guess, has been going on a Final Fantasy binge, and I'll probably show this on my video, but something I like to do is I like to check my Steam activity, because I like to see what my friends say about the games that they play. And he had posted a very long review, and I read the whole thing, gave it a like, because it was a really good review, but mostly because something that he has over me is whenever I try and talk about a video game, if you've ever watched a review of mine on my main channel, the best thing I can do is alliteration plus comparing it to food that I like. I'm really bad at eloquently speaking on a video game why I think it's good, while also explaining the flaws that it has. He's excellent at doing that. He did a great job at kind of voicing almost exactly how I felt replaying the game. I know he was a bigger fan of 8 than me playing it originally. I was definitely not as hot into it as he was. But going through it again, man, I guess maybe it's just because I'm older now and I understand the systems better, and I kind of get what they're doing with the story a bit better. It's obviously still very convoluted and confusing at times, but it just really shines, you know? It really sticks out. It's very memorable, and I love it. So saying all of that, I constantly think now about, God, if Square Enix made another remake, I want it to be 8. There's been rumors about a Final Fantasy IX remake. That would be awesome. I love 9, but I don't think 9 needs it as bad as 8 does. I'm a big proprietor in, I know a lot of people hate remakes, and that's understandable, but for me, I have no problem with remakes. It's just a way for, I believe, the younger generation to experience the games that you and I probably grew up with, because they probably don't have the tolerance for it. I mean, recently I've been against the idea of an FF10 remake, and then I showed one of my friends who's like 5 years younger than me. I'm 29, by the way. I told him to play 10 because he loved 7 Remake, and he could not play past like 10 minutes because he thought it was so ugly, and it shattered my brain because I was like, what is this guy talking about? And then I was like, you know what? Maybe it would be okay if 10 got a remake. Would that really bother me? No, it wouldn't. I would probably fucking love it. But I'm a big proprietor of games that maybe aren't as good getting a remake. Something I always talked about with my friends was if Dirge of Cerberus got a remake, you know, one of the worst Final Fantasy games of all time, I actually think could be pretty great if it got a remake. Final Fantasy VIII is one of those where it is not perfect. It's not. You can see that they were hampered by the technology at the time. You can see that they were not able to completely get the vision that they wanted out with characters like Laguna, who's the fucking goat. I mean, for how little Laguna is in the game, it's amazing how awesome he is. And I feel like, I remember, I don't know if this is true, but I remember reading somewhere that like Laguna was supposed to have a higher or like a bigger portion in the game, and you can really feel that. I think if we went back to it, I think it could kind of repopularize it, especially with, you know, notable people in the industry talking up that game. And I went ahead and I will say on this channel, I'm not going to do like deep research and stuff, but there is a couple articles I found, one from IGN, the person who wrote it was Matt Purslow, and there's another on Siliconera. This was written by Sato. I'll start with the one on Siliconera. This is in 2019. I believe they were translating Yoshinori Kitase's thoughts on a Final Fantasy VIII remake from a Famitsu article, where Famitsu had asked Yoshinori Kitase, what about a Final Fantasy VIII remake? To which Yoshinori Kitase said, quote, if the youth that inherits the genes of Final Fantasy can step up and do it, then I'd like to see it made. For Final Fantasy VII Remake, the project started from my desire to make Final Fantasy VII with today's technology while I'm still here at Square Enix. So I'd like to see it, talking about Final Fantasy VIII Remake, done by the youth of Square Enix. So he has said that he would be interested in it. And honestly, I actually do think that a younger crowd could probably really knock it out, Final Fantasy VIII. I mean, the game is literally taking place in a school. And then the next article, this is from IGN. The last one was in 2019. This one was posted in 2024. This was around the 25th anniversary of Final Fantasy VIII. So I'm just going to read a couple parts of it. Talking to IGN, Final Fantasy VIII's director Yoshinori Kitase said he'd really reworked the battle system on Final Fantasy VIII, noting that players struggled with the stat-heavy junction system that powered the RPG's characters and fights. I think you may remember we had the junction system in Final Fantasy VIII, he said, and the thing about the system was the enemies leveled up in line with what the player's level was. And obviously you had to then use the junction system and how you customize that to overcome the challenge there. And I think that was a very difficult system for some people to get into. Depending on player skills, sometimes they just didn't work out the best way of doing it. So I think I'd want to return to that and really rework the battle system on Final Fantasy VIII and make it something where the level of difficulty and approachability for some fans was a lot better balanced. So I think that's the thing I'd look at most if I was going to look at remaking it. Reading that, it makes me want to pose the question to you guys. 1, do you want a Final Fantasy VIII remake? And then 2, if you did, How would you like to see it play? I was replaying Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the PC version, because I had played it on PS5 originally, and someone had asked me on stream, I believe this was like right after I'd beaten Clair Obscur Expedition 33, I was asked, you know, which Final Fantasy, like, what was it? It was, if Final Fantasy 8 and 10 got remade, which one would you want to get the 7 Remake battle system, and which one would you want to get a turn-based battle system? And I actually think Final Fantasy X has like one of the best turn-based systems of all time. So I would want it to be turn-based. I prefer turn-based generally, but there are exceptions. Like I am of the belief that the 7 Remake, specifically 7 Rebirth battle system is like the best battle system I've ever played in an RPG, because I think it utilizes a party incredibly well. Anyway, that's besides the point. I had said that if I had to choose between those two, I would want 10 to get the 7 Remake battle system, and I would want 8 to get the turn-based battle system. Because when I was thinking about it, I had realized that a lot of, not a lot, but like a decent amount of stuff in in Expedition's combat system does borrow from Final Fantasy VIII. If you'll remember, when you do like Squall's limit break, you need to hit the trigger as he slashes. What the hell was his Rizoku-ken or something? The name of his limit break. You'd have to hit it in time to do extra damage. Or Zell, you'd have to input like a fighting game combo. Or Irvine, I think he had like different bullets, like elemental bullets or something. I can't remember, something like that. And as you know, in Expedition 33, there's QTEs, something like a Mario RPG games or Lost Odyssey, something like that. I'm not necessarily saying that, because I don't think that Final Fantasy should yoink the Expedition combat system. I actually think they're better off coming up with something else that's unique. But I think because of Expedition, I can see stuff like, if they wanted to do reactionary things like parrying or, you know, messing with QTEs, I feel like Final Fantasy VIII could work really well with it. Granted, I am aware that Final Fantasy X is the overdrive system, which is also have QTEs. I don't know why, but I can envision 8 really well with a system like that. Not saying I wouldn't want 10 turn-based, all right? I would love that. If anything, I'd prefer that. But yeah, what do you guys think? If Final Fantasy VIII were to get a remake, what kind of combat system would you like? Do you want it to get remade to begin with? And if it did get remade, what's the scope that you would want behind it? Because here's the thing. I'm a big fan of what they're doing with the 7 Remake series. I think it's fucking incredible. I think it's genius, if I'm being completely real. But I also realize and understand that a project of that scale is so fucking huge, we're probably never getting anything like that again. I would be surprised because of how much money has gone into it. It's like a 10-year fucking project. Like, I'm basically 30, bro. If Final Fantasy VIII Remake were to start development, it would be way after Part 3 comes out. I'd probably be 45 by the time, you know, fucking Part 1 of an FF8 remake would come out if it came out that way. So, like, would I want it that way? Honestly, yes, but, like, I just don't think I would live. I don't think I'd be alive to see it completed. So, I think I would prefer if they maybe brought down the scope, but find a way to get those Laguna segments in there. What do you guys think?